there's some new faces here. Why don't we just do a quick around the room, who you are, if you're a business owner, what your business is, and maybe something we didn't know about you. So I'll start. Todd Nielsen. My business is Clock Tower Advisors, which is a digital consulting agency based here in Two Rivers. I work with local businesses as well as national and international customers, but I choose my home here because it's an awesome place to live and work. I get to be on the lakefront every day and really have felt a part of this community in the last 2 years that I've been here. So really great to be here, and I want to see this area thrive. How about you, John? Yeah, I'm going to bring down the volume here a little bit. Let's just get going.
Perfect, thanks.
Yeah,
Oh, raspy. Good evening, everyone. I know Todd, and I know Ryan over there, and I don't know anyone else. So my name is John Ernst, and I'm the chairman and president of a nonprofit organization called Connector. Maybe you've heard about it. We've done a number of events in Green Bay and Appleton over the last 5 years. And I'm an entrepreneur by trade. I'm not an economic development person. We just were frustrated, my colleagues and I, over in the what we call sort of 41 corridor area, frustrated with just, we needed things we couldn't get our hands on, to keep it short and simple. So we put together a grassroots movement, an effort to build community around entrepreneurship, try and solve problems that entrepreneurs have, try and engage with corporations, try and engage with government, councils, community colleges. I mean, it became pretty significant for a number of years. So it became everybody. And so there's a whole story behind that. And if I'm here tonight, we get a chance to network and talk, by all means, there's a lot of stories, lots of lessons I'm here to share. I'm here to listen, I'm here to learn. Todd helped us over the years, so I'm here not only to help Todd, but also one of the things I started doing 5 years ago was talking to everybody, and I met with BizStarts 5 years ago. The then leadership was Dan, I forget Dan's last name.
Snyder.
Yeah, and all levels of entrepreneurship we found really matter. The micro entrepreneur, the Main Street entrepreneur, the innovation-led entrepreneur, and then the scalable business entrepreneur. And if you don't nurture that entire network, it's something more to look at. Anyway, we came down and that's what was important. So it's a pleasure to be here and hopefully get a chance to meet Tom.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm Bill LeClaire. One of the things I do is I'm a city council member, but also I own BD LeClaire LLC, a building on Washington Street, 1610 through 1612, 1608 through 1612. And I'm also part owner of Basilisk Bibble's Art Gallery along with my wife.
Awesome.
I'm Lee Hansen. I own Seeds and Beans Nature Store, just a couple doors down from business on the opposite side of the street. We've been in business 5 years, and this is the best place to have a business.
I'm Heather Ross. I'm a community member. I've been here for 2 years. I'm entrepreneurial in my thinking, and I love to come to things and meet people and see what's going on, and I have ideas of my own that I haven't figured out how to make happen yet. So.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Nowicki. I'm the owner of Cultivate Taste. I'm a certified tea specialist from the Specialty Tea Institute in New York City. I source, blend, and sell loose leaf teas. I have a retail location in the Schrader's department store on the second floor.
I'm Ryan Kauf. I teach entrepreneurship at UW Green Bay, and keep going.
I'm Tony Soxy. I'm probably the lesser known Soxy in town. Seems like my brother everybody knows and nobody knows me. I'm the older of the two. I'm a physical therapist by training, actually still wanting to actually consider opening more like a cash-based practice in town here. It just seems like it's something everybody struggles with coming up the deductibles, and there's cheaper ways of doing it if you kind of ditch the insurance out of it altogether. And that's something I'm kind of really actively investigating. But I'm also kind of the second half of the crew that's bringing Snowfest back next year. So we're really excited for Two Rivers to be doing that.
Yeah, Snowfest. I'm Roger Russo. I'm the executive director of Two Rivers Main Street. Two Rivers has been a Main Street community since 1996. I've been involved with the program in some form for most of that time period. Became the executive director in November of 2015. The job's a blast 99% of the time. No job is fun all the time. I mean, I think we can all admit that. I look forward to finding other people like Jennifer or like Emily that we saw earlier today that want to jump into starting a business in Two Rivers.
I'm Seth. I work for Barry and Gina at Sepia Chapel. I'm 17 and I want to be an entrepreneur, so Gina offered this invitation to me and I just couldn't turn it down.
Awesome. Welcome, Seth.
And he just went on a week-long mission trip and serves all of it, so I applaud you for that.
Awesome. Good.
Barry Cron, owner of Sepia Chapel, both here in Two Rivers and in Green Bay. We just moved down to Two Rivers about a year and a half ago and can't be more than happy of being in the town. So.
Awesome. Kurt Andrews, City Council, also on Main Street board, and lead a couple other committee or on some other committees. Moved here 3.5 years ago after 20 years in Dallas. I was born here, however, though, for 2 weeks of my life, and then left. Not that I don't like Two Rivers, I just had no choice. We own 6 stores, Sport Club stores, 3 in Green Bay, Appleton, Oshkosh, and Stevens Point. So I know the pains of being a small business owner. We just don't happen to have one here in Two Rivers. What you don't know about me is in 1970, I was in Kids from Wisconsin. So there you go.
So we can carry it too.
Will you sing for us?
Not right now. Okay.
I'm Gina Cron. I'm, as Barry said, so we own Sepia Chapel in Green Bay and Two Rivers. So, since you know about the business, something about myself is I was a game designer for 16 years prior to coming into the venue world. And so, as with what you said, I just have a tinkering mind and love to tinker and invent stuff. And I had a recent failure. I invented a little thing that basically attaches to a paddleboard and would allow a kid to sit there and hold on, because otherwise kids don't sit still and they're always falling off the paddleboard. And so anyways, I had some major discussions with some companies, and when all is said and done, I got a no. But anyways, I still am tinkering in the world, so that's kind of what drives me.
Digital or tabletop games?
They were like Dave & Buster's. They were coin-operated, big arcade.
Very cool.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Hi, I'm Patrick Snyder. I'm with BizStarts Wisconsin. We'll help anybody in the state of Wisconsin start a business with one-on-one coaching, mentoring, and connections to resources free of charge. One thing you might not know about me, and I'll go back a little too, is in 1981 I raced dirt bikes, and I was the 86th best dirt bike racer in the country.
Awesome. Was there only 86 of them?
Yeah.
87.
In the 900s.
Congratulations. Nice job.
Did you?
Carla?
I'm Jessie Crow. I own Fatso's about 2.5 yeyears ago. And that's about it.
Thank you for the pizza.
Hey, not a problem. There's other ones that aren't on the menu. So hopefully
And I'm Noelle Wilson. Todd and I started up this whole group about a year ago together. And at that time I was kind of beginning my own self-employment, entrepreneurial kind of ventures, and that of course led to a full-time job. So I'm no longer a self-employed entrepreneur, but I hope to be one day. I'm still interested in that mindset.
All right, and I'm Darla LeClaire. I'm on the Branding and Marketing Committee for Two Rivers. I'm on the Main Street Board of Directors. I'm also on the BIDC, and I'm not sure, but it might be CDA as well. I get confused.
Yep.
And also, am I?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And with my husband, Bill, who you've already met, we are the owners, operators of Basil Ishkabibel's Art Gallery and Artist Share Space. So I'm going to turn the camera around, and we can edit my transition here, and then you can get
That, but a lot of this started early on when I first moved to Two Rivers. And I had known about BizStarts because I lived in Milwaukee. Well, I'd been there for about 20 years. I met Dan before and been at some of his early on events. You could have said that to Dan. Yeah. Just Dan's a neat guy and was enthusiastic about what we wanted to try to do here in the city. And one of the things that really appealed to me about BizStarts was that it wasn't necessarily about sort of like fast growth gazelle type companies that are going to get venture capital bought and move forward. It's about hometown businesses, and how do you encourage, the Main Street to grow? How do you build a sustainable local economy? And how do you promote those people who are trying their best to run a local business and make feel like they're isolated from resources, they're doing all the things that they need? Or what I'd like to do is I'm going to first of all introduce Patrick and give you a little bit about his background so we can talk about the BizStarts program in general. But following his conversation and kind of overview and maybe any kind of Q&A or ideas that you may have, I want to do a quick retrospective about BizStarts over the last year, some of the things we've done and our accomplishments, and then open up to a community discussion about ideas for moving forward over the next year and how we can continue to keep this as a viable, useful organization for the community. So with that said, I'm just going to go ahead and introduce Patrick. Patrick is the executive director for BizStarts, and just to give you a bit of a background, he has tremendous experience running social and for-profit ventures. His largest wins are in the areas of organizational growth. At the age of just 27, I'm your spry youth, he started, grew, and sold Shoreline magazine. The publication went from having 2 to 20 employees in roughly 3 years. Patrick is the founder and CEO. As executive director, he transformed the Illinois Travel and Tourism Association, Visit Illinois, from a 30-member club into a federation of Illinois tourism associations with membership in the hundreds of thousands, while increasing the budget by a factor of 6. So he's got some serious chops at being able to grow businesses and be successful. He's got consulting and operations experience while working with billionaire, best-selling author Steve Kaplan. Patrick and Steve focused on consulting for growth for small to mid-sized companies, associations and chambers of commerce. Patrick also performed big client sales and customer service, training events, and consulting for companies like Panasonic, AT&T, Frito-Lay, and Oracle. Little companies. Don't do too much. Patrick is a frequent adjunct professor at Kendall College and Roosevelt University. Patrick is constantly searching for ways to enrich the lives of the students there. He's also a published contributing author in the highly acclaimed book, The Startup Student, and serves on the advisory boards of several companies. I'm embarrassing him publicly. Most recently, he served as executive director for the United States Association of Small Businesses and Entrepreneurship for 5 years, where he grew reserves from 28,000 to over 500,000 during that time, which is amazing. He's got a BA in Communications from Eastern Illinois University, an IOM designation from the U.S. Chambers Institute for Organizational Management at the University of Notre Dame, and holds a graduate certificate in leadership from the University of Wisconsin.
Go Badgers. Thanks for sitting through that.
Please join me in welcoming.
Pretty long. Thank you a lot. First of all, it's a complete honor to be here in Two Rivers. This city is just so beautiful. It's literally like pulling up on the East Coast and seeing the inlet waterways that go to the ocean. And in fact, you could be fooled into thinking that if someone blindfolded you until they got here. And I can't believe you're just getting your second hotel now, because this is, someone who was involved in tourism, was a real destination. And I think that driver is going to drive a lot of business here. And I'm excited for you. I'll tell you a little bit about BizStarts. The founder, Dan Steininger, who's a friend of mine actually, his great-grandfather was Daniel Hone, who's the Hone Bridge is named after, and he was also voted the best mayor when he was the mayor of the city of Milwaukee of the entire country. So Dan has a real vent for service. He's kind of getting ready to retire. He's a Boston University trained lawyer. So Dan's getting ready to go, and I'm getting ready to step in and do some bigger things at BizStarts. So some of the things we're going to do coming from entrepreneurship education is we're going to do a credential training method in entrepreneurship that will be given to any resident in the state of Wisconsin free of charge. The second thing we're going to do is create a BizStarts Fellows program, and I don't know how many of you outside of academics know fellows. Maybe you'll be one of our fellows, but you borrow professors from local universities, and what you do is fund things that do good for the non-for-profit or whatever group they're working with. And in this case, the BizStarts Fellows will create curriculum, they'll do research on the impact of that curriculum, and then they'll also do research on how to create more impact based on the other research. So I honestly think that there's a couple things going on with BizStarts that you might not know. One is that we have C-level representation on our board of directors from every major company in Wisconsin. So John Olin, who's a great guy, the CFO of Harley, he's on our board. Hush Blackwell, their CEO, is on our board. And it's a diverse board, meaning lots of men, lots of women, lots of people of color, minorities. The other thing is that we have a lot of businesses that we're trying to help. And we'll help any business in the state of Wisconsin that wants to get started, but we like to work with underserved. So it literally, in my mind, is the only place on earth where you could see John Olin and a guy that literally just got out of prison and redeemed himself and now is ready to get back into society, in this case 20 years, working together on a business. And this particular business was called Lamar Loves Cookies. Well, Lamar Love walked into Hush Blackwell yesterday, so I got some good news from the front. And he sold 100 cookies per week to Hush Blackwell, which over a year's time will be a $40,000 order. So I think that's the kind of impact that we can make throughout this state, that we can take people with small businesses, bring them into big companies, and then create big orders. When I was in my private sector career, when you mentioned the consulting, I was giving a speech like this. And I think it hits this group because I see a lot of service-based businesses. And this guy says to me, Patrick, I oil chains for a living. What are you going to do to help me? And he had a bicycle shop. And I thought about it for a minute, and I said, well, you've got Abbott Labs right down the street, and you also have Cyril. Why don't we go in there and see if we could put a couple of bike racks on the property, because each property had like 900 employees. We'll make a deal with personnel where it's an employee benefit, and we'll get service contracts on all the bikes and partner with insurance companies so nobody gets sued. Well, roughly within a 4 weeks' time, he had 6 bike racks on each property. He had sold them 400 bikes, which would normally take him 10 years to sell, and then had service contracts on all those bikes, because all those big companies have community initiatives where they're supposed to help small business, and you can leverage that. And I think that any person in this room could go into a big company and sell what they tours at your place. You're probably working with some of them already, right? With the pallets and jacks. But that would be one thing that I would say is that you might be thinking too small. The last thing I would work with is that the barter system is still alive and well in a lot of places. So if you're short on capital, one way that you can make up that sort of divide as you're growing your business is trade your event space for something that you need, like marketing or website work with that person, and create something that creates a 2 + 2 = 6 thing for both businesses. And that's all I got for tonight. I'm going to buy the pizza because we want to support the small businesses. I hope you have me back because I want to see what you guys are doing in 6 months, and nice to meet everybody. Thanks. Yeah.
Well, it's really interesting. So that resonated with me. Talking about that any small business can sell to larger, kinds of organizations. I mean, my consulting business is predicated on, my day-to-day billing is based on working with larger organizations that have budget and want to do digital marketing or digital communications kind of work. And so, yeah.
And I know you have an awesome reputation within those companies.
And I try to do good work for them, and so thank you. But the the interesting thing is it's the same problems that face small and mid-sized businesses are facing with large businesses. Mm-hmm. They have trouble doing it at scale. But it's the same kinds of questions, like how do I market myself? How do I do it in a way that feels real? How do I measure the results of what I'm doing? So I mean, I think that's a constant kind of struggle, for organizations, to do. So I think it's a good message for all of us to hear that, you know, that we can take that business to the next level just by being a little more bold and trying to, you know, find out where we can fit in with large organizations that may need help.
And to build on that, you can get them to help market for you.
Yeah.
So for example, we have a thing with the University of Oshkosh students giving discounts, VFW giving discounts. I target the top 100 businesses in Green Bay. We go into their HR people, give them discounts. So they're posting it, they're putting in their paychecks, and they're driving people to our stores without spending a dime. So it's leveraging, again, the 2 + 2 = 6 kind of mentality we talked about.
Yeah.
We can do that here too.
I think we can, yeah. And so, so now I'm curious, so as far as BizStarts' ability to help businesses here in Two Rivers, I know that one of our success stories, Emily Ristican, was Green Conuts. When I learned that she's doing this, you know, she had this great business idea, I said, oh, let's try to get her some kind of mentorship or coaching, you know, calls with BizStarts. And so we set it up, and I don't think we had done one of these before, but we did it as a virtual consulting situation. She basically Skyped.
That was your idea.
Yeah. Well, but, you know, I knew you guys could do it. So. Yeah, but I think it's a matter of like, you know, you don't need to make your way down to Milwaukee to get coaching or to take advantage of the services for the program, that they're available free, and that you guys have some very capable coaches who've been there and done that and can help an organization sort of look at like where they are with their business, you know, what are the challenges, you know, that you're faced with, how do you take it to the next level, and then give you some specific recommendations, things to take back and work on, and then maybe go back and be accountable to them for further calls, if I'm understanding the model correctly.
Yeah. So once you get into the intake system on the website, it's called a job form. They do sort of an organizational audit on the company and then give you recommendations. One of the bigger things is the ongoing coaching, so there's accountability. And the last piece that I really like is the connections to resources. So they know if there's a sweet spot or a place in government that says we need more businesses like yours and you get free money. They know how to get hard money if you had some trouble with your first business and their credit's not so good. They know how to get money for hard money like that. They know how to get free legal aid for you, free accounting, which a lot of people need right off the bat. They're trying to get their contracts straightened out or their invoicing or whatever it is, with accounting and legal help. We're not at capacity yet, and our goal is to double the amount of people we serve. So yeah, get on the website and get in there, and we're basically the board funds a lot of the organization. Like they like the organization so much, and they've done well with their careers that they fund our day to day, and then we also get grants from different community organizations. So we don't charge for anything. There's nothing in it for us if you show up or you don't show up, other than, you know, Black Friday when Laura got that order yesterday, it was something else, 30 grand.
Yeah, and it's just, it's amazing to have that kind of resource available, because I think, you know, a lot of entrepreneurs will think, you know, oh man, I gotta go pay to get incorporated, and I gotta go get an accountant, and you know, there's a lot of cognitive overhead, you know, to figure out like when you want to get a business started to get off the ground, and so to have an organization where you can have that as a sounding board and do that kind of thing, you know, and for free, I mean, that's amazing. So,
Dan would just feel so good if he was here. It's humbling to see this group when we had just that group in Milwaukee, and now we've got you guys and we got Green Lake. And
yeah, so tell us a little bit about Green Lake. Have you been out to see them?
No, that comes next week, and they've been kind of running on their own. So
yeah. Oh, I'm being directed to get in the shot.
There you go.
So. Yeah, so Green Lake, now I know when we started up the Two Rivers BizStarts, Dan had actually shared with me, he said, oh yeah, there's some guys out in Green Lake that were doing something, and then it kind of hiccuped, and then we got going, and I didn't hear anything about them, so it's kind of nice to hear there's another branch of BizStarts.
Yeah, and hopefully, you know, Green Bay or, you know, wherever areas that want to do it.
Yeah.
All we need is kind of a poster child like you or whatever, and then get the whole thing going.
I don't think I make a very pretty poster child, but yeah.
We'll put Noel up there.
Yeah, that'd be better. So yeah, all right. Well, thanks again. You know, for making the trip up here to do this, and I think what I'd really like, is participation, to maybe give you a chance to get to know Two Rivers a little bit better, through stories from some of this group here, things that we're trying to do. You may have some ideas or notions for us, based on what you hear, and you maybe want to reflect on it and get back to us about it. But I would really love, to get your insights about what we can do to kind of get to the next level as a city, because I think there's a number of us around this table that are, I think all of us are just trying our hearts out to really kind of reinvent this place that was badly affected about 8 years ago when the major employer in the area pulled out. And it left a geographical and an economic and a spiritual hole in the city I think it's taken a toll on a lot of people. And I think sort of trying to turn around that viewpoint and help people see the good that's here, that's the mission. And so those of us that are doing entrepreneurial things and we're trying to promote the city, I think we're all interested in trying to tell a better story about, we're here, and hey, the rest of the state, there's some really cool stuff here. You should come and check us out. So,
well, I'll definitely spread the word, and I know you and I have talked about co-writing some grants to see if we can get some funding on that, and we'll do that too.
That sounds great.
Awesome.
Okay. So this is just a quick retrospective. And a lot of conversations with different groups. And so when Noelle and I started this, we reached out to a variety of different groups locally and regionally and across the state. And so Dan Snyder was the start of it with the state level, sort of what we were trying to do. But this is our unadulterated slide when we first went around and did sort of the show of organizations we wanted to reach out to. And if you take a look at this, so Two Rivers Main Street, Roger's been an unflagging supporter of what we've been trying to do in business. He's invited me to present some lunch and learns. Has been at many, if not most, of our events that we've had, and is, I think the mission of the Main Street program aligns very nicely with a lot of the stuff that we've done. The Two Rivers Business Association, we did a presentation to them. I joined the association. As of this year, I'm a vice president. Next year, I'm going to be president of the TRBA. It was a fast track whirlwind tour. I don't know how that happened exactly, but I'm happy to be involved with it. And I think that their commitment and interest in entrepreneurship and small business support is there. And so I think some of the things that I'm trying to guide them towards, in the next year, is how do we reimagine the mission of TRBA so that it continues to be something viable and not just a morning networking, kind of group, but something that's actually bringing resources and real business value to small, medium, and large businesses within the city. As part of TRBA, there's also the Future Business Leaders of America, the Two Rivers High School. We've gotten involved with them. I'd say that the thing that I'm most excited about at the high school level is stuff that Jeff Soxie, another great supporter of the BizStarts group, has been involved with, is the Light Up the Lakeshore Business Idea Contests. And he's run 2 of those now. I'm proud to say that we've supported him through that. if not materially, at least morally, and participating in events and worked as judges and helped to organize things and be greeters. So that's gone well. We hope to do more of those and have some more of those kinds of competitions.
I'll tell you, Tony's coming.
We're gonna be there, yeah. Tony's just brothers. And then some of the other broader organizations, we did outreach to Manitowoc County Chamber, to Progress Lakeshore, which are both sort of our county level economic development and chambers. Score Green Bay, I've been to one of their meetings. I don't think we've really kind of pulled them in, so I haven't necessarily been excited with that. New North, I've definitely made some strides with, and I've joined some of the committees with them. So again, making sure that Two Rivers is represented regionally as much as possible, and we've got a presence, in a lot of the things that are happening. Vision 2022 is a rebranding effort, I think, at the county level, to try to sort of revitalize views and positivity around what's happening in the local economy here. I've been involved with them a little bit. G Beta, I haven't been as involved with as I'd like, and Young Professionals in Manitowoc County, I haven't been involved with as I'd like, although I've tried to reach out to them. They've been a little bit challenging. So again, I'm just doing a little bit of assessment here, and if I had to give myself a report card, I think maybe a B minus B is probably where I'd be, with some of these things. And then the broader kinds of relationships. Obviously, BizStarts is a key relationship for us. Some of these other groups I've had little or no contact with. I feel like there's resources we're just even now scratching the surface with, and maybe some other things we can do. There's maybe other groups here that should be on the radar, and you might know them, or you might know John. Connector wasn't on my radar at the first with it, but it obviously was pretty quickly thereafter, which is why I reached out and jumped at that opportunity. So I guess my question with this piece is are there other organizations we should be involved with or be aware of? Obviously, UW Green Bay, Ryan got involved with us right away with BizStarts and was a huge supporter and has been all along.
Future Farmers.
Mark Burwell.
Future Farmers.
Future Farmers, that would be great. Would love to get agricultural entrepreneurship involved. Yeah. And who did you say?
Mark Burwell used to run
eHub.
What's that?
He does eHub.
eHub, yeah, Urban Hub, which became eHub, but part of the Northeast Wisconsin North. I just ran into him at a business luncheon about a month ago, and they are starting the Creativepreneur. So they are starting
Creativepreneur.
some. Yes, they are starting some efforts around helping creative solo entrepreneurs. So
Okay.
I don't have all of the details, but they might be worth.
Sure. If maybe you could message me.
Sure.
And,
Yep.
Yeah, I would love that.
Mark's also connected to the Million Cup stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, sure,
Yeah.
sure.
And, that's a big lift to open up a chapter of Million Cups. But in terms of outreach and conversation, you get 3 birds there with Mark Burwell.
Yeah.
But he's been around the block a lot of times.
It would be good to sit down with him and talk a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
And the other one was, I think that we would have a great in with Saul Newton
Saul
over at the
Newton.
Wisconsin Veterans Chamber of Commerce. And yeah,
Yeah.
I would like, and I know I've already had conversations with him, and it's just a matter of just us putting our heads together and seeing what the best fit would be.
He was a great guest.
Yes, he was.
When we had him in,
Yeah.
that was probably one of our best attended nights after this one, in terms of people coming in the door. So that's a great suggestion too. So yeah, so we're learning. This has got to be a living, breathing list if it's going to be viable. But I think it's about not just us being in our bubble in Two Rivers, but making Two Rivers known to these other organizations so that they know we're very interested in entrepreneurship and in growth and in supporting the local economy and things that we do. So I view the way that I've always viewed the role for BizStarts here. I was really careful when I first started doing presentations, which was to say like, hey, I don't want to be an economic development council or anything like that. We're not that. There's already a Progress Lakeshore here. They're already doing things. There's other groups and things that are available that can do it probably far better and have funding, to do some of those good things. But what we can be is a good concierge and to say, our job is to know as many of these different groups as possible and to try to make connections between them and help them to see the commonalities. And we are trying to do things to improve, the overall health and standing of the economy in the state. So. Any other ideas? I don't want to belabor this, but yeah.
Tavern League. Could have Tavern League on
The Tavern League? Oh, yeah, I don't know about those guys. What is it?
It's huge all over the state.
Oh, okay. I don't drink enough.
Are you talking about new
Yeah.
I
business?
think Tippy is the president of
Yeah.
the Tavern League in Manitowoc County.
And they have a lot of
It was a
influence.
good group of entrepreneurs. They meet in Lake Geneva every year.
Oh,
And,
okay.
Yeah, they talk
That's
business.
He covers everything up from Michigan, the whole area,
Right. Very good.
all the bars.
I mean,
The Rising Tide Society? Okay. What do they do?
It's mostly women, actually, just women entrepreneurs. So I don't know how many chapters there are in Wisconsin. I was part of the one in Green Bay. I don't know if there's any in there.
Okay.
You know, it's interesting, Todd, there's so many crossover of things. For example, I've spoken Rotary lately.
Yeah.
It's a club, right?
Yeah.
But there's so many business people there, whether it's, Mr. Lester used to be there, the Websters were part of it. These are people who are trying to help communities, help involvement, invest in things, whether it's painted portrait, I think, is that what it's called down in Manitowoc? We're trying to help, people get in the business or help get jobs.
Yeah.
But there's so many business people there that are kind of strange that they cross in and out of those type of things.
Yeah.
And I don't know how involved, or you should maybe speak to them once in a while, if you haven't already.
Well, so it's fortuitous you bring them up because they've come up in some conversation. So one of the updates that I want to do this year, with Two Rivers BizStarts is, and Brian can turn me onto this, Wisconsin Startup Week is November 11th to the 17th. And it's run by Matt Cordio, and I think it's out of New York. I'm not sure who actually owns, they do events in Milwaukee and Madison and Green Bay and like all around the state. And I signed this up, perhaps foolishly, to do one here in Two Rivers. And so it would be nice to have some involvement from some of those other organizations. And so Rotary was one of those that came up. I've talked to Roger a little bit about, with Main Street.
Yep.
And I think there's some other organizations that we have the opportunity to do. And so it'd be nice to do some events the week of the Startup Week to talk about, and highlight and celebrate some local entrepreneurs. And so, folks like Emily, like Jennifer, like Lee, who are running businesses, like CP Chapel, that are running successful businesses or, have learned lessons about what it is to run and grow a business in this market, and share some of that wisdom with other people that are maybe thinking about starting something and doing something. I think that if we did just one good event, that would be amazing.
Right.
And I'd really like to put on something like that.
Can I comment on that?
Please. Yeah.
So we did this a couple of times, and who's participated in a Startup Week event here? All right. So it's an opportunity for the community and the resources in the community to kind of showcase what's going on here. And you need a venue, pub and grill, right, where you can speak, and the volume and some of these things and some drinks and food come together. It's an opportunity to get your C-suite people to come into that environment and talk about whatever. There's a whole list of great topics, but it gets real personal because you've got anywhere from this many people, maybe 30, depending on the topic. Get someone that comes in and talk about VC, venture capital, or talk about the table stakes of starting a business, the accounting, the legal, the setup, and have a tech thing, so we got a game designer here, right? And it's just a great way if a small community can pull together and get the word out. That's the piece. Organizing the people and getting the guests, I think, is the easy part. The hard part is getting it out. So we learned something when we did Rise of the Rest. I'll just share here that we learned from people in Cincinnati. And it's a big production. You got all kinds of, high-rolling folks coming in from out of town, and that's exciting for a community. And there's lots of buzz. You do the best you can, and all kinds of things are going on. Anyway, this particular program goes around the Midwest, so Cincinnati was a place where it stopped. And at the end of it, for Cincinnati, one of the producers said to me, okay, now, John, it's your turn, you're in your community. Get as many people as you can, expose it. He said, one of the things we figured out after was I went down to the coffee shop, and I was in a local cafe, and I was talking to the local entrepreneurs. And said, hey, did you see that we had this program in town? And the entrepreneurs, I don't know what you're talking about. So it was just that realization that you've got this bubble, and everyone in there is going to know it. How do you get that 2 rings out to know that that week is an opportunity to come explore, field silly questions, field serious questions, and if you can execute all that, I mean that's a launch point. That's activating all the pieces in your community, which I think is absolutely the first step.
Well, this is happening, I think, simultaneously early spring with some successes with the cobblestone opening up, with some new businesses, getting off the ground, with a branding program for the city of Two Rivers. We've engaged an agency, Civic Brands, out of Texas. They've come up and had the first 2 several-day visits just last week. And so they spend a lot of time getting to know us, traveling around town, spending time on their own, seeing what's here. And the hope is they're going to start bringing back some ideas and assets for us to start using as part of the narrative, for the city. So I think the timing to do the startup week is a good one. Like you said, if it can be a launch point, if we can get the word out, we can make something good happen.
You got enough lead time right now. I mean, it's a short little blip on the calendar. You don't have to do every day of the week. You do it a Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or you do it a Thursday, Friday. Mm-hmm. You can sort of pick, I think, format. So there's a lot you said.
No, thanks for your perspective on that, because you can ask me about it anyways afterwards, so this is
Yeah, I mean, so Darla had come up to me at the break and said, hey, I went to one of your things, and there was a value that she got in exchange we had, and it was really great. But that's the piece. Is she got something that she's now turned into some gold for her and her dream and her vision. I mean, and that's activation. That until that happens in her mind, the way she sees her dream and her future, nothing out here in the tangible world can happen for the community or for anything. So the startup week is just another form. There are many forms of community building and activation, internally, kind of stuff. So I just. That's my mantra as I go around, and there's lots of ways to express that and talk about it, because we all see the end in mind, right? A thriving Main Street, with more hotels in our port, whatever. I had that conversation out. John, if you could just get Green Bay and Appleton put their airport together, I'll get right on that. Yeah. Then we'll give you money, so we're still working on that one, but anyway, just
a long runway.
Yeah, really. 30 miles.
It's called 41.
Wrightstown, anybody?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that question is getting the word out to, outside of the bubble, because I think there is a core of very motivated, very interested people, many of them in this room, who want to put Two Rivers on the map. And as a place where entrepreneurship is smiled upon and where there are resources available to you, where there are no stupid questions, but we want to encourage you to build and make stuff.
Foster courage. So this young man, I forget, I wrote it down, but I can't remember it. Seth, I should have remembered that. He hears about it because he's not in here.
Yeah.
And then his mom or dad or whatever learn about it, and it kind of goes like that. I know I'm saying the obvious, but sometimes it just helps to say the obvious out loud. So people go, oh yeah, I didn't tell my neighbor. And I talk to my neighbor every day. Why didn't you tell your neighbor? Too close. It's that simple activity.
It's interesting, we just had a meeting this morning about a survey that Roger's putting together for small businesses for Main Street. And those responses will help us shape potentially an agenda, right? Whether it's, I don't know how to grow my business, or I don't think I have enough customers coming in, or hey, my hours of operation, how do I get the rest of the world to think like I'm thinking down here, right? So I think that'll help maybe shape your week in November, which I think is exciting. I think the revolving loan fund we're doing on BIDC and CDA, get the thing passed here shortly through council, will be how they get some money potentially, or how they can qualify for money, or what does it mean for them to borrow from a city versus a bank, or bank and a city. Because one of the scariest things is, oh, how do I start, right? What collateral do I need? Will I go bankrupt? I think even conversations about what happens if you fail. So I failed in business once. So I think having those stories, those testimonies is probably a good thing to share, right? You walk around with a scarlet letter on you because you failed, right? But you can come out of failure, and you're smarter about it. So what do you need to look for? I think all those things would be great.
There's a little something endemic to the Wisconsin mindset about failure too, that I think it's one of the reasons we haven't had as much venture capital here in the state. That there seems to be an unwillingness to deal with those, or to have tolerance for those kinds of failures. But it's a necessary part of being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
And just one thing that I wanted to say is that you're your own worst critic. And the thing is that, and I just talked about this down in Chicago the other day about fear. And the fact that, undertaking a venture such as starting your own business is a very scary thing, because there's that possibility, that Murphy's Law possibility, that it's not going to succeed. But by the same token, and a lot of people think, well, I'm probably just not good enough to do this, or my project idea isn't good enough, or the app I am developing isn't good enough. And I think what we need to do, and this is what we try to do through BizStarts, is to help motivate people and say, go for it. Nike used to say, just do it. And my mantra is, do it, damn it, do it. Just try it. But the thing is, as far as BizStarts and as far as Connector, you're working, you end up getting people who I think are of a particular type of personality, and those are the people who are more willing to take a chance. The people who are hanging back and they're unsure, what is it that you do, or and some advice that you can give us, that we can motivate those people who are right on the cusp of taking that leap of faith?
It's kind of like a guerrilla marketing play. Like if you're doing it for the kids, it's Entrepreneur-a-Palooza, and it's a music festival that includes entrepreneurship, where people selling entrepreneurial goods, which is what they do. But if it's for artists, then it's entrepreneurship in the arts. And you celebrate it as a day for music lovers and people that do photography and people that draw, to bring their art and collaboration together while learning how to monetize it. So you really have to put the narrative in their language, and you really have to sell it directly to them as something that's unique to them.
Okay.
Entrepreneur-a-palooza.
I like that.
And by the way, it doesn't have to be your own business.
I just trademarked
it. People can go and buy franchises.
Right.
So it's, okay, if you want to mitigate your risk, if you want to open a restaurant, you want to open no offense, if you want to open a cousin sub, hypothetically, right? What do they have to look for? How does that work?
Right.
Why is that a different venture? But it's a whole different avenue.
Right.
And you're your own boss to some degree, but you don't have total freedoms.
Right.
But you have a little bit of a parachute, you think. But that's even part of the BizStarts, is it doesn't have to be that it's Todd's sub shop, right? It could be you're willing to go into business and you're willing to mitigate it to some degree because you're taking somebody else's formula and you find a market that you can actually explore and take that formula and make it work. So I don't think we should forget franchise opportunities. Not that I want Two Rivers to be a franchise, I really don't. But there's that opportunity still for small businesses that could do that.
Because, what it boils down to is the individual. We're trying to get people motivated and to be successful, and however it is that they go about it, whatever's going to work for them. But it just seems like we have so many people in this area who've got fantastic ideas. And it's just trying to get that, just trying to push the right button so that they go, okay. And that's a very difficult one. And business today is not like business was 10, 15, 20 years ago. It's a completely different animal, and the attitude and approach is so different. And we can think outside the box a little bit more. But I don't know. Do you have any suggestions?
Well, yeah, so I hear a couple of things. I'll comment on this and then I'll answer your other question. To me, community building is group therapy for each of the participants. Because failure happens in isolation. It's a Thursday night where my bank account ran dry. I'm by myself with that bank account experience. I've got a grocery situation in my refrigerator, and I've got a rent situation coming up at the end of the month. That's a very personal experience. Everyone, right? Okay. So that's isolation. And the community building gets a lot of people involved, which then actually turn a dead end into a T intersection, is the way I've looked at it. As being an entrepreneur myself, many endeavors, many failures, right? And the successes are rare, and they're hard to land on, and it requires intellectual humility, which can only happen through group bonding, group interaction, and group therapy. When I see his humility and your humility, I can model that back instead of trying to hold up the I've got it all figured out thing while my bank account runs dry, right? So to know that now starts to make sense for why would we do events? Why do we bring people together? What are we going to do when we're together? There's bragging and there's humility. It's all part of the soup, right? So that's just a philosophical approach that I have often when I'm out engaging, when I'm building stuff. I appreciate therapy, whether it's one-on-one or group, because I need it. So that's my own personal statement, and I've benefited hugely from it. And a successful executive or someone who's in a different place, on a different path, or on my path, that survived my struggle, is able to come with me. If they can help me solve my struggle, they get to go through it and enjoy that success too, right? That's the mentor-mentee thing,
right?
Kind of in a nutshell. The other question I heard you ask about was, how do we get more people that are on the fringe and all of this? And I feel like I've pitched 1 million people, not only in my own endeavors, but through the connector work that I've done. And I've come to find out that everyone deserves conversation, and I have personal bandwidth. So Todd has personal bandwidth, and it's easy to cross that line for all of us. So you've always got to watch that. And then you say, well, how can I be the most efficient with the time that I have and the people I need to meet? It's very hard to shoot like a sniper and say, I know that person, that business owner over there, or that executive, or that high net worth person is one of us. You don't figure that out until you get into dialogue. And yeah, sometimes it takes a few cycles. But somewhere in the doing of this, you are going to begin to see, you'll get your own calculus for that person's a wait and see person. And then maybe my message here is then just be at peace with that. Make a no. Okay, they'll come. It's not no forever. It's just no now. And making early and easy peace with that as you move through those pitches and those handshakes will make the work simpler. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
And just knowing that you'll get, somewhere in a year or so, I don't know if you've been at this a year, so maybe somewhere a year to 2 years, you're going to start to go, okay, this is the group.
It's like a startup plan for 2 years.
Yeah, this is us. This who showed up tonight, and then it's a different night. It's maybe an augmented group or a little bit different group. But then you go like, that's the lean-in people, and you go, okay, now we're just working on the people who are the wait and see. Now how do we address the curiosity of those folks? And that gets into all kinds of stuff, right? I don't know if that helps, but I always had a lot of things about why can't this makes sense to me. Right. Why can't I get everyone to jump in? And it just doesn't work that way.
And like you're saying, then if you got that person who's on the fence and it seems pretty darn comfortable on the fence, go back to them once in a while and just keep not prodding, but encouraging.
Yeah, you don't turn
and
them
eventually
out.
you might just flip them.
They'll show up. Some flip, some don't. There's all kind of reasons. It's political, relational. It's just all kind of stuff. But this is a great base. mean, what you've got here, I mean, I've sat in rooms where there's 3 of us, you know.
So one of the things that you brought up is part of the flipping, or sometimes on the fence, is the risk or the fear of failure, the fear of financial failure, depending on how old you are. You know, am I losing it all and I only got 10 more years to recover, right? Is kind of what we just witnessed with the cobblestone thing. There are clever ways of getting 14 people to invest as a consortium to mitigate that risk, to not have one person put up $1.4 million, but to get 14 to do 100,000.
Right.
So there's clever ways of doing that, so you don't have to do it on your own. These 14 guys are relying on each other. Now they're all smart businessmen and they're all figuring out, they've got a kind of a new LLC they're all agreeing to, right? Which I'm sure took a long time to power through. If you sat here with a room full of people and you said, yeah, I'm gonna put 100,000, I'm gonna put 100,000. Your wife's saying, no, you're not. My wife's saying, no, you're not. You know, how do we convince them? Or somebody else that this is a smart idea, right? But it's that type of approach too, that you go, okay, you don't have to necessarily always feel like it's you, right? How do you get, it can be 2 or 3 people. It can be people who are smart business persons who you want to go into business with that can help you, you can lean on, and you can have someone to pick up the phone at 8 o'clock at night and say, okay, how are we doing? And, oh my God, the cash flow sucks this month, okay.
I'm in trouble.
Right.
You know, and Kurt, I'll add this. I found, maybe this is obvious too, that folks, I'll say in Wisconsin, but certainly where I live and pay my dues, are more protective of their reputation than they are of their money. Now, why is that relevant? Let's just unpack that a second. And they're damn protective with their money, right? So there's a whole lot of protection there going on. There's a whole lot of risk averseness going on. Whatever is being produced, and however it's operationally coming across, hits their reputation first. There's their sniffer, you know, they got their sniffer up for, if I associate or I participate, will my reputation take a hit that I don't want to suffer for whatever the reason is they built for themselves. I didn't see that on the beginning because I'm a risk taker. So that was an entrepreneur's, right? We're not risk takers, so we'll stand in the broad daylight of sun tomorrow if we fail, and we'll survive. It'll hurt, but not everyone feels that way. And when you're doing enrollment and community collaboration, and you just bear that in mind, that what's in front of me, is it a person more concerned for the reputation? How do I then appeal to their worry they may not come right? I mean, I don't think I've ever had anyone say to me, well, John, I'm just worried about my reputation here. Can you give me something to reassure me I'm not going to look stupid if I help you out? Never has anyone said that to me. But many have felt it. Yeah? So, how's you doing?
It's kind of growing up in this area, but then moving out and coming back. Yeah, to your point, like you said, they're very prideful of their reputations. But there's also a lot of people that are the coulda, shoulda, woulda crowd. I could have done that, I should have done that, I would have done that, but, rather than kind of the end. And a lot of times too, I think people, as much as they don't want that, they're kind of thinking, well, hell, if I reach out to this person or this person, they're gonna lead me along that way. But yet at the same time, what I think they're probably really looking for maybe isn't someone to lead them, is someone is truly what you would consider a mentor. Someone that's going to guide them, walk along with them, be that person that you call at 9 o'clock at night. Like you said, Kurt, hey, cash flow sucks. What, help. I just need to talk to somebody, and
or I need to cry with somebody.
Right, and knowing that there's a community of, it's like knowing there's a community of business owners in this town that are kind of that same mindset. It's really encouraging from somebody like myself that's really seriously investigating this, moving this forward. I know I can reach out to, even though my business is going to look completely different than the stuff you guys are doing.
It's hard for adults to come out to another adult and say, I'm scared. I've done something, or I didn't do something, or I missed a deadline, or I blind spot, whatever it is. And this building a business stuff is all about finding ways to model how that's okay to do that. You won't be judged or annihilated professionally for coming out early. That's that's the antidote to failure, is get out in front of it early so help can come in. Oftentimes the entrepreneur shows up and it's just death. You know, it's too late for anything to happen. Anyway, this is fun.
Great points. Yeah, no, when I came into this discussion tonight, I was hoping that, you know, I could selfishly, you know, figure out some ways to kind of revitalize this group and have those discussions. But I think the more substantive discussion has actually emerged, which exceeds my expectations, which is we're talking about the community here, and how do we grow that, and how do we grow that sense of entrepreneurship, the risk taking, the admission of fear, because that's part of the makeup, you know, for doing something like this that each of us are doing. So,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you get to say you're brave after you do the thing you're scared of.
yeah.
I think, I've only been in business for 5 years, and this is something we did not have when we started. We did not have a mentor. We went in, I guess you could say, blind into this. And this is something that I think stops people because they don't have someone directly to bounce ideas off. And when you don't have that outside support, you're not going to go past that line. You're going to sit right there and you're going to say, okay, do I do it? Do I take the chance? With me and my wife, don't take this the wrong way, but when we started, we didn't have any mentors, we didn't have anybody with us. We just told ourselves, there's no way we can fail, no matter what, because we're putting our lives into this and we can't fail. Now with this gives me another option to help grow our business. And that's something that we've been looking for a long time. And I think reaching out to each other will produce a lot more small businesses in Two Rivers instead of someone just sitting there, do I invest in this? Do I put capital into this? Do I take the time to even go further to investigate to see if I want to do this? To have a mentor like this and have someone who's going to support you, it's awesome. This could change Two Rivers a lot.
Absolutely.
Also help businesses that are already existing.
Yes.
So how do you go to the next level? If you're
Yep.
stuck at a certain number, right?
Right.
Which I think is oftentimes we get complacent, right? It's going okay, I got some cash flow coming in, do I expand? Do I open a second store? Right? When you guys open your second chapel, it's like, oh my gosh, right? I got 6 stores now. Like, do I keep doing this or when do I stop, right? So it should be able to help the foundation be stronger. But unfortunately, the reality, guys, is that I worked in corporate America for 40 years. Chief marketing officer for 5 companies. You've got $5 billion. You got stock options. You got grants. It's comfortable. You go, someone else is dealing with HR issues. Someone else is dealing with real estate issues. Someone else is paying utility bills. You know, you're on an expense account, right? Someone else is handling that, but it's in the budget somewhere, right? It's like government money, it's somewhere in the budget. But it's different when it's yours, right? Every nickel's gotta be counted, you're looking at the cash flow, your payroll's coming up, utility bills are in, oh my gosh, this went out, I wasn't planning on that, no different than a house, right? First goes out. So not everybody's willing to do that. A lot of people that's why corporate America exists. A lot of people are complacent and they'll never have that entrepreneurial fire to get away from the man and to be their own, do or die. This is personal.
Nothing kills a dream like a backup.
That's right.
That's spot on, man.
Ouch.
Nothing kills a dream like a backup.
That is spot on.
I was just gonna add a comment to what you're saying is, we had a water heater go out, and it was in winter, the water heater. And I just, put the water heater, and it was a hard couple of days or whatever. I did it myself, but I looked at Darla and said, I'm just gonna go get a job. I don't have to work so hard.
The hardest job you ever had is running your own business.
Right.
It's the hardest job. But it's also the most rewarding job.
Yeah.
You lose
lose more sleep. You lose more sleep owning your own business than you do working for someone else.
You drink more.
But you're not worried about being fired tomorrow.
Yeah. I fired myself so many times. I fired myself so many times.
That's right.
Yep.
Well, Lee, it was really insightful, and I appreciate your comments on that too, so thank you.
If you want to have a bird feeder.
Yeah.
A bird feeder.
Oh.
You sell seed.
Well, and I think, so, we run through this, and I guess my vision of what this group could be early on has definitely shifted over time. Like my original hope was, hey, this could be more like sort of a mastermind group. We get the same people coming back every month and kind of sharing sort of like, hey, I've got these goals. I'm trying to do these specific things for my business. Like really open, transparent, talking about what's going on with our businesses and what the challenges and struggles are. In reality, it didn't turn out to be that at all. It turned out to be a couple new people showing up each month. Maybe sometimes there was 1 or 2 people. Maybe other times there was 10 people. There are always interesting discussions and there are always interesting resources that were shared in it. But I guess where I needed to and maybe need to still adjust my expectations a little bit is to recognize that there's people coming in at all different levels of experience, and they're not all sort of in the throes of running that new business. Some of them are thinking about a new business. Some of them have a notion, and some of the notions need to be disabused of, or others need to to be encouraged and nurtured. But I think I've had to become a lot more at peace with recognizing that we're trying to perform an educational function here. So we can't necessarily give sort of like the deep attention to each of our individual balance sheets, with what's going on. But those things can happen offline, and I think we can maybe provide some of those things, in the year ahead, especially with some of the coaching resources that are available. If somebody wants to dig in and really talk specifically about their situation, we've got some directions we can kind of steer them in to go. But that has been the thing that I most like for this group over the next year is like, do we have the right format for this? Like we're meeting Wednesday nights once a month, and it's fairly late in the evening. I understand we conflict with some church services. There's is it the right place and is it the right venue? Should we be meeting in a bar and having networking conversations? So like some of the programming that I'm doing through the end of the year is to experiment a little bit with some of that. I'm going to do a lunch and learn kind of session. I'm going to do an evening at the pub, kind of thing. We're going to do the Wisconsin Startup Week is kind of something a little different to change about, just to maybe lean startup fashion. What works? What's maybe we get something that we get a little bit more of a community response from. But I will say I'm really gratified for the responses tonight, and I think everybody's coming here with open and good ideas and wanting to do things to build and grow the community. It hardens me to hear a lot of this stuff. So anyways, we're getting close to the wrap-up time here. I don't want to stop the great conversation, but why don't we grab a cookie or grab some more pizza, continue to have some conversation, just kind of let things wind out for the rest of the evening. And thank you all, for your input. Just a couple of quick housekeeping things. Resources here are from a lot of our past meetings. So if you haven't grabbed them and checked them out, take a look at them. I had extra copies made of these things, so take them away with you. We've got things like financing kinds of advice, legal issues for studying a new business, getting started with market research, some other pieces on coming up with a digital marketing strategy, for what you're doing. Just a lot of things that we've developed here that you won't be able to get anywhere else. They're unique resources that, based on kind of somebody coming in. Noel did a lot of research for some of these things. There's some Two Rivers and Manitowoc library books that we refer to in some of these that you can check out. So take advantage of these. I know that there's a library, and I also wanted to thank Darla for filming this. What we're trying to do going forward is to try to capture all of these meetings as part of a repository of expertise. So the last one that we did was Dennis and Scott from CLA. We cut them on film. You would think like, oh, an accounting presentation. Oh my God, kill me. But it was actually really, really good.
They were great.
They were fantastic. They were very informative. They really demystified a lot of things and helped lay out some options for somebody that's a business owner. So be looking for those things. We're going to feature them up on the Facebook page and on the TwoRivers.com, TwoRiversBizStarts.com website as well. So
One quick thing
Yeah.
is I have two daughters that are college age that are driving to Lake Geneva right now to see Dad, so they're going to want to fire when I get home. So I'm going to leave at the break, and I just wanted to say nice to meet everybody, and feel free to use me as a resource in any way, and BizStarts too, and you and I will be talking about some granting ideas and some ways that we might want to spell out the narrative in the local press, and just keep this thing rolling, huh?
Absolutely
All right,
appreciate it.
all right. Nice to meet everybody.
Thank you.